I remember the first time I ever saw James Dean. I didn't know who he was. I was watching television. This play came on, something about two hopped-up punks terrorizing a family, waving guns around, talking hip. And Dean was so good, so realistic, I found it difficult to believe he was an actor. I thought maybe the director had picked up some kid off the street, some kid who might have lived the part. Within 12 months, Dean was no longer an unknown. He was a star. And when I saw him in East of Eden, his performance moved me to tears. Ordinarily, a man doesn't admit a thing like that, but in this case, I guess it's all right because there's a reason for it. Another year or so, and he was dead. And now, to tell you the truth, I don't feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for us. His death was rough. Death always is. But you can't lose what you don't have. And in that sense, Jimmy didn't lose anything. He'd lived, he'd known excitement, tasted success. And then it all stopped. He didn't know it was going to stop. He didn't know when. And when it happened, it was all over in 2 seconds. So don't feel sorry for him. Feel sorry for yourself, because Jimmy could have brought you a great deal of enjoyment. He was not just another good actor. He was one of the best. And in his full time, he might have set new dramatic records. Feel sorry for yourself because of all the glowing moments he could have brought into your life with the warmth of his talent. You know, albums like this, or funerals, or graveside speeches, or wakes, or any things that involve people getting together and talking about how much they miss someone who's died, are always really brought into existence for the benefit of the living, not the dead. The living gather to comfort each other, to share their grief, to talk off the bottled-up sense of loss. So, that's the picture. If you're listening to my voice, it's probably because you miss James Dean. I'm with you. If there's anyone who knows the whys and wherefores of that great American institution, the teenager, it's that other American institution, the disc jockey.
Yes, young people write to me, not only about music, but about dancing, motion pictures, manners and morals, a great many things that are really important to them. And that's how I've come to be aware that James Dean is particularly important to the young people of America. Perhaps more than any other actor of our time, he seemed to express something personally meaningful to the young. And it wasn't simply because he was young himself. There are dozens of youthful leading men. Nor is it that he's important because he's gone. Death has taken many favorites from us. No, James Dean meant something particular to his fans. They seemed to identify themselves with him. He seemed, because of his naturalness, his poise, his boyishness, his relaxation, to be not just another actor, but the personification of what many a teenage boy wanted to be, the dream that many a young girl might dwell on.
Jimmy, 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 we'll never forget you. The night was cold, the trees were bare. The day you left this world, we know. Jimmy, 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 all of us miss you so. We only knew you from afar. We never spoke, and yet, Jimmy, 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 all of us miss you so. We only knew you from afar. We never spoke, and yet, Jimmy, 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 we'll never forget you.
Rebel Without a Cause was a frightening, timely motion picture. No one could have done as good a job as James Dean in the role of a young boy caught in the maelstrom of problems that beset some of today's teenagers. James Dean, in many ways, represented the touching, sometimes humorous, sometimes tragic face of modern youth. Dean's story was in many respects typically American. He came from a country town in Indiana, and the country never completely rubbed off. His struggle for recognition in New York was an epic one. The long days of waiting, the long nights of despair, the never-ending personal battle against loneliness. The struggle for recognition was resolved. James Dean became a star. The long days of waiting became days filled with the excitement of stardom. The long nights were spent with friends, enjoying music, and discussing, as most young people do, the future. The battle against loneliness was never won.
A star went out one lonely night. He was so young, he was so bright, so clean, and his name was Dean. The angels carried him away, and as they passed the Milky Way, the moonbeam just to welcome Dean. So beat the cymbals and blow on the horn. Up in the sky, a new star is born. The little rebel heard his call. Now he'll be acting for us all in dreams. So good night, good night, James Dean.
Carol Archer Sturmond is a young lady, just 16, who never met James Dean, typical of the thousands who knew and really loved him. She knew him only as the series of people he pretended to be on the screen, but she wrote a moving tribute to him that expresses quite well the emotions Dean was capable of arousing in many a heart.
Jimmy, there is something I must tell you. I have kept it locked here through the bitter winter and the chilling spring. And now it is summer, and soon again fall, and September. And it will be 1 year. Others have come and gone, and I have forgotten the hurt of losing them. But time was kind. She wove her tender threads of solace gently through my sadness, few at first, then more, and finally the hurt was gone. But that was with the others. Now she has not remembered, and I cannot forget. In your short, lonely walk through life, our paths never crossed. You walked alone, you never met me. I meant nothing to you. But I must tell you now, you meant so very much to me. The first time I saw you, your searching eyes, knowing yet bewildered. Your first picture, you were a soldier. You had one line to say, and then your part was over. But for me, Your life had just begun. Who were you, Jimmy Dean? I knew you. I never met you, but I knew you. Better than you ever knew yourself. Because I knew your gentleness. Because I saw your genius. You could only live it, not understanding, not comprehending. Searching, yes, but not comprehending. Who were you? Why did you mean so much to me? Why can't I forget you? I can't explain it. I can't understand it. I try, but I can't. Maybe because it was about you, something I too have known. Loneliness. Maybe that was it. And yet, you were not one person. You were 3, and 5, and 50. You were all people, for in you was the universal longing for love, for understanding, for compassion. But just as the longing was in you, so it was always denied. You searched. You tried to find it. Your motorcycles, your racing cars, your mannerisms, all of a pattern, all a part of your search. But in the end, they led you nowhere, except back to the beginning. I was able to see mirrored in you all the wonderful things in life. You could reflect these things, you could mirror them. This is what made you a great actor. But you could never catch them and hold them and savor them. They could never be yours. Your search would never have ended. A small town, and James Dean is born. It could have been so simple. The house where you were born remains unchanged. The small town remains unchanged. It could have been so simple. You could have grown and married and farmed, perhaps, and lived in the unchanging house. It could have been so simple. And yet if it had been, we would never have known you, and our lives would have been that much poorer. I still see your face, Jimmy. I will never forget it, any more than I will ever forget you, any more than I will ever forget the brilliance and the magic that is Jimmy Dean, any more than I will ever forget those unguarded moments before the camera when you showed me, when you showed the world, the genius that even you didn't understand. Any more than I will ever forget that last great moment in Giant, where you sit, so symbolically alone in the great banquet hall, surrounded with wealth and fame and power, but now alone, deserted, and left with the bitter memories of what might have been. Just a role, yes. Just a picture, yes. Just a scene. And yet I wonder, Jimmy Dean, was this your life you were acting? Without knowing, without realizing? And so you were gone, Jimmy. They say you were gone, and I know that they're right. The winter is over. Summer has come. And yet I must tell you, in my heart the fresh snow still lies quiet, nestled against the sleeping earth. In my heart the winter remains, the winter which claimed you, the winter which took you, the winter I can never forget.
Sometimes violent, sometimes shy, Dean had a passion for excellence. As a musician, his amateur bongo playing led to serious study. His interest in painting was not that of a dilettante, but was an example of his need to constantly express himself in new ways. His feeling for good books was honest. Even his driving was a search for perfection. He used it to express himself, to work off the tensions that were part of his moody and pensive nature.
James Dean, James Dean. boy came out of Indiana, just a boy, just a boy, a boy who dreamed from Indiana, just a boy, just a boy. James Dean, James Dean, a face so fair and eyes so blue, oh so young, oh so young. A gentle smile that seemed to touch you, oh so young, oh so young. James Dean, James Dean. A train rolled in to Indiana with a boy, with a boy who dreamed from Indiana. He's come home, he's come home. James Dean, James Dean.
Giant was James Dean's last picture, some say his best. He had for the first time the complete freedom of expression an actor lives for. If I were trying to explain, say to a European friend of mine, what an American teenager was really like, I might very well say, well, he's pretty much like James Dean. Of course, that would only be a generalization. You can't really capture and describe millions of people by taking one example and pointing that out. But that admission would be pretty much taken for granted anyway. And so, in a sense, you could say that James Dean really was American youth personified. He wasn't perfect, but he didn't make any claim of being perfect. He didn't set himself up as an idol. Millions of American kids did that for him. He didn't claim to be the world's greatest actor, and yet, in time, it's quite conceivable that he might have become just that. He hadn't finished making some really important personal decisions. But then, I guess for most of us, life is quite often indecisive. Now James Dean is gone. One is led to remember the poet's lament. Of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these. It might have been.
Farewell, O Prince of Players. Now the curtain's down. Life is but a stage, they say. To greater heights you're bound. Sleep well, my friend, and dream of the role that you must play. Whene'er the curtain rises upon the judgment day. May the angels bid you welcome, as we bid you goodbye. You have earned your place in heaven. A star is born in the sky. Goodbye, my Jamie boy. As they change the scene, our voices join together. Goodbye to you, James Dean. Goodbye. Goodbye. Farewell. Farewell. James Dean.
Now you'll understand. Albums like this, or funerals, or graveside speeches, or wakes, or any things that involve people getting together and talking about how much they miss someone who's died, are always really brought into existence for the benefit of the living, not the dead. The living gather to comfort each other, to share their grief, to talk off the bottled-up sense of loss. So that's the picture. If you're listening to my voice, it's probably because you miss James Dean. Like I said, I'm with you.